Welcome back to MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic. It's Sunday Fun Day here on the channel, and in today's video we are going to continue with our current deck building series, Shapeshifter Tribal, and our oh-so-favorite #1 Shapeshifter. Hello and welcome back, MTG Burgeoning Community. Here we are with another Sunday is Fun Day video, and in today's video we are going to move one step closer to completing our Shapeshifter Tribal deck for the EDH format, and of course our commander, our #1 Shapeshifter, #1 in my heart and everyone else's as well, Morophon the Boundless. If you missed any of the previous episodes in this current deck building series, you can click on the links in the description below. To bring everyone up to speed very briefly, here are the cards that have already been included in this EDH build. Universal Automaton, Imposter of the Sixth Pride, Avian Changeling, Irregular Cohort, Amoeboid Changeling, Mistwalker, Changeling Outcast, Skeletal Changeling, Venomous Changeling, Woodland Changeling, Guardian Gladewalker, Masked Vandal, Shapesharer, Unsettled Mariner, Mirror Entity, Realm Walker, Torion Mauler, Bloodline Pretender, Ghostly Changeling, Turtle Shell Changeling, Grave Shifter, Chameleon Colossus, Cairn Wanderer, Morit of the Frost, Valiant Changeling, Metallic Mimic, Dragon's Horde, Birthing Bows, Maskwood Nexus, Reflections of Litjara, Rooftop Storm, Cataran Summons, Coveted Prize, Thwart the Grave, Spoils of Adventure, Absorb Identity, The Bears of Litjara, Crib Swap, Day of Judgment, Whelming Wave, Journey to Oblivion, Deadly Alliance, and this card here, Synchronized Spellcraft, this was a mistake. This card never should have made it into last video. It is not going to be included in this deck. It was an oversight. Quality Control will be receiving a scathing editorial from your boy Burgeoning here, but for all intents and purposes, Synchronized Spellcraft is out. That card is not good enough to be in this deck, even in its initial build. Austere Command, Blasphemous Act, and Finale of Eternity. And there we have the core, the majority of the deck. And in today's video, we are going to install our land base. Alright, so there's not going to be a lot of thrills and frills here. If you're familiar with our deck building series here at Morophon, Sunday is Fun Day. You know that we are usually a 5-color build, and in so doing, we want to make sure that we add as much 5-color support as we possibly can. However, because this is a Shapeshifter deck with Changeling, there will be a couple of other types of lands included as well. So let's get down to the usual inclusions. We got one basic land of each type. We have one of each of the triomes. That brings us to 10 total lands. We are going to run all 10 shock lands. They're all there, of course. 10 shock lands, that brings us to 20 lands. And our next 10 lands are going to be one each of the fetch lands, because any one of these fetch lands can fetch any of these 20 lands as long as it appears here in the text box. And we've got all 10 fetch lands here, folks. So that brings our land count up to 30. And here are the last 9 lands that we're going to include in this Morophon build. Of course, if we're playing 5 colors, we have to add the best land in the format. 1 copy of Command Tower, not much to discuss about that. Next up, Command Tower number 2, Reflecting Pool. As long as we have a land that can give us a color of any that we need, let me reframe that again so it makes sense. As long as we have another command tower on the battlefield, or any combination of lands that can give us a white, blue, black, red, and or green, Reflecting Pool will act as Command Tower number 2. Speaking of Command Tower number 2, at the cost of 1 life per activation, 1 copy of Mana Confluence. That's going to act as our Command Tower 3 with a little bit extra cost. And we are going to include a copy of Exotic Orchard, because it seems very likely that when we sit down to a table of Commander and some of our opponents are playing their multicolored decks, we should be able to utilize Exotic Orchard for at least 3 to 4 different colors of mana. And if we're lucky, perhaps that becomes 5. All right, so now let's include a couple of additional inclusions in the Department of Redundancy. Next land, the World Tree. So this is a land that comes into play tapped. It taps for a green, and as long as we have 6 or more lands we control have tapped to add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. So with the World Tree in play and at least 5 other lands, all of our lands are command towers. So for a 5-color deck like this, including the World Tree, makes a lot of sense. However, it actually makes even more sense when we look at the next wall of text below the Chromatic Lantern wall of text. And that reads, 2 white, 2 blue, 2 black, 2 red, and 2 green, tap and sacrifice the World Tree, search our library for any number of God cards and put them onto the battlefield. Then shuffle your library. You want to know how many God cards we have in the deck? Nearly every single shapeshifter in this deck, aside from the Metallic Mimic, because it does not have Changeling, every single shapeshifter has Changeling. So with the World Tree, we tap 10, we tap the World Tree and sack it, and we're bringing every single Changeling from our library right into play. And we can do that at instant speed. Including the World Tree in this deck is going to act as a win condition. All right, next inclusion, we are going to include a copy of Field of the Dead. It comes into play tapped. We tap for a colorless. However, whenever Field of the Dead or another land enters the battlefield under our control, if we control 7 or more lands with different names, create a 2/2 black zombie creature token. Every single land in this deck will have a different name. We are having a true singleton deck, way back old school for the early days of EDH. This is a complete singleton deck. No land will have the same name, so that to be able to trigger Field of the Dead should be very easy. And with the Maskwood Nexus already in the deck, if Field of the Dead comes into play and it's online and we're activating it every time we get a land into play, we are putting in a 2/2 Changeling. Field of the Dead could act as another win condition. It's nice when you can include lands that act as win conditions. All right, we're down to 3 more lands, and then that's going to do it for this installment of Morophon the Boundless Shapeshifter Tribal with Changeling. Next land up seems like a gimme. We're going to include a copy of Mutavault. Taps for a colorless, but we can tap 1, and Mutavault becomes a 2/2 creature with all creature types until end of turn. And it's still a land, so basically we tap 1, and we can turn the Mutavault into a Changeling. 2/2, and it's still a land. Next up, we are going to include 1 copy of Unholy Grotto. It taps for a colorless, but we can tap a black and tap it to put target zombie card from our graveyard on top of our library. How many zombies do we have in the deck? A minimum of 25 right now, because every shapeshifter aside from Metallic Mimic that are in the 99, they are also zombies, and we're not even including Morophon the Boundless. So Unholy Grotto will act as a very cheap Volrath Stronghold. And the last land we're going to include in this deck is going to be 1 copy of Seaside Haven. Tap for a colorless, but tap a white, tap a blue, tap the land, and sacrifice a bird to draw a card. And of course, how many birds do we have in the deck? At least 25, because all of our shapeshifters, aside from Metallic Mimic, all have Changeling. And that will do it for this installment. Morophon the Boundless. This deck is just about done. What say you? Generally, the installation of the land base is the last feature of building a Morophon deck. or building any of the decks here at MTG Burgeoning? Well, for those at home that are keeping track or have checked out the tappedout.net page, you're wondering right now, at this moment, why are 15 cards missing from this build? Well, let's talk about that right now. What you see laid out before you in front of the deck list that we've already comprised so far here during this deck building series are 4 piles face down. Each pile of cards face down has 15 cards for a total of 60 cards. Each one of the cards in these 4 piles pertain to one specific tribe throughout Magic's history. So there are 60, there are 5 dozen. There are 60 different tribes represented here by these 60 different cards. Because this EDH deck is a shapeshifter deck focusing on Changeling, each one of these 60 cards helps out the team in one way or another. So, what this deck is going to eventually do after we reveal all 60 cards in the next few episodes of this deck building series, these 60 cards are going to serve as a pool to draw the final 15 cards to put into this Morophon deck each time you sit down to play with it. There will be a 45 card maybe board tacked on to the tappedout.net deck list, and it's going to continue to grow with each pile of 15 cards we reveal. And each of these cards will always be shuffled up, so no deck should ever be the same. So for the purposes of today's video, we'll reveal the first 15 cards, but you're going to have to wait for the next installment in the series to see the next. So let's just start left from right. We'll grab this pile and let's reveal the first 15 of 60 different creature types to be represented in this Shapeshifter with Changeling deck. Also, to keep in mind, if you remember from a few episodes ago, the importance of Maskwood Nexus was discussed as with a bit of foreshadowing. Well, foreshadow complete, folks. Here we go. 60 cards, and here's number 1. Didgeridoo. We've got an artifact here with a mana value of 1. Cast it, and we can tap 3 of any color, and we can take a Minotaur from our hand and put it directly into play as though it were just summoned. And like we discussed already multiple times throughout the earlier portions of this video, every creature in the deck is a Minotaur aside from Metallic Mimic. So Didgeridoo allows us to tap 3 and put any one of our Shapeshifters with Changeling into play at instant speed. That's the first card being included. Next up, we have Skemfar Avenger. 1 in a black. It's a 3/1 elf berserker, and whenever another non-token elf or berserker we control dies, we draw a card and we lose 1 life. So this is going to help out with both elves and berserkers, but it doesn't really matter too much because, like I said, and keep beating it down beating it down till the cows come home and they get, I have no idea where to go from after starting off down that path. So let's just skip right past it. So this is going to allow us to fill our hands when our guys are getting sent to the graveyard. So that is the second one that we are including. Skemfar Avenger. We've got Minotaurs. We've got Berserkers. Next up, we have Werewolves. Full Moon's Rise. This is not a creature. It's not an artifact. It's an enchantment for 1 and a green. And it says, werewolf creatures we control get +1/+0 and have trample. And we can sacrifice Full Moon's Rise to regenerate all werewolf creatures we control. Next up, we have 1 copy of Scarblade Elite. 2 black for a 2/2 elf assassin. We can tap and remove an assassin card in our graveyard from the game, which way back then they didn't have the keyword term of exile. So this really reads, exile an assassin card in your graveyard from the game to destroy target creature. So this is our assassin representative. Next up, we have Kithkin Mourncaller. 2 and 2 green. It's a Kithkin scout with a 2/2 body. Whenever an attacking Kithkin or elf is put into your graveyard from play, when it dies, you may draw a card. So this is our Kithkin representative. And yes, here's our elemental with Risen Reef, 1 green and a blue with a 1/1 body. Whenever Risen Reef or another elemental enters the battlefield under our control, look at the top card of our library. If it's a land card, put it onto the battlefield tapped. If not, we draw it. Next we have Death Baron, 1 and 2 black for a 2/2 zombie wizard. Skeletons we control, and other zombies we control, get +1/+1 and have death touch. This is our skeleton representative. Next we have Ferris Band War Chief, 3 and a green. It's a centaur warrior with vigilance and trample, and gives other centaur creatures we control +1/+1, vigilance, and trample. What an amazing lord this centaur warrior is. This guy gives +1/+1, vigilance, and trample for just 3 and a green on a 3/3 body. Amazing. And guess what, folks? Yes, that's right. All of our shapeshifters with Changeling, aside from Double M, they're centaurs. Next up, we have the Daru War Chief, 2 and 2 white. It's a 1/1. It says soldier spells we play cost 1 less to play. So this is mana value reduction on all of our changelings. And additionally, soldiers we control get +1/+2. So it's a mana reduction and a power toughness boost for all of our shapeshifter soldiers. Next up, we have Sachi. Somebody help me out there in the comment section. I'm going to go with Sachi. I think Sachi sounds cool. Sachi, daughter of Seshiro, 2 and 2 green with a 1/3 body. It's a snake shaman. Other snakes we control get +0/+1. However, shamans we control have tap to add 2 green to our mana pool. So again, for the purposes of this deck, our creatures are going to be getting +0/+1 and tap to add 2 green to our mana pool. Next card up is Kazul Warlord, 4 and a red. It's a Minotaur warrior ally with a 3/3 body. Whenever Kazul Warlord or another ally enters the battlefield under our control, you may put a +1/+1 counter on each ally creature you control. The Kazul Warlord is our ally representative. Next we have the Regisaur Alpha, 3 red and a green and a 4/4 body. Other dinosaurs we control have haste, and when Regisaur Alpha enters the battlefield, we create a 3/3 green dinosaur creature token with trample. Again, if we have the Maskwood Nexus in play, we might as well just say we put a 3/3 green everything creature token with trample into play. And of course, this gives all of our changelings haste. Next, we have the Biogenic Ooze, 3 and 2 green on a 2/2 body. When it ETBs, we create another 2/2 green ooze creature token. At the beginning of our end step, we put a +1/+1 counter on each ooze we control. Tapping 1 and triple green, we can create a 2/2 green ooze creature token. If you haven't guessed it, folks, this is our ooze representative. Nearing the end of our first 15, we have Godo Bandit Warlord, 5 and a red with a 3/3 body. It is a human barbarian. And when Godo enters the battlefield, we may search our library for an equipment card and put that card onto the battlefield. If we do, shuffle our library. Whenever Godo attacks for the first time each turn, we untap it and all samurai we control. After this phase, there is an additional combat phase. So this is our samurai representative, giving our deck a relentless assault mechanic. And our last card of this first 15 is Seshiro the Anointed, 4 and 2 green. It's a 3/4 snake monk. Other snakes we control get +2/+2, and whenever a snake we control deals combat damage to a player, we may draw a card. This, of course, is our snake representative. And that is it, fans of MTG Burgeoning. These are the first 15 cards to be added to our pool of potential creatures to be shuffled in to our 99 whenever we sit down to play with this Morophon Shapeshifter tribal deck with Changeling. Tune in for the next episode of Sunday is Fun Day to see the next 15. Speculate all you would like in the comment section below, because we still have 45 more cards to reveal. This is MTG Burgeoning, your channel for all things magic.